They didn't just fly through space. They carried millions of viewers into a future where courage, friendship, and hope could survive among the stars. The bridge of the Enterprise once felt eternal, with every voice, every command, and every "live long and prosper" becoming part of television history. But in 2026, looking back at that crew feels deeply emotional. Many of the faces who launched this universe are gone, and only a few remain to carry the memories. Today, we revisit Star Trek, the original series cast, then and now, and remember the legends time has taken from us. James T. Kirk was played by William Shatner at the age of 35. Bold, dramatic, and always ready to take the Enterprise into the unknown, Kirk gave Star Trek its fearless sense of adventure. He was brave, impulsive, loyal to his crew, and willing to face impossible choices with the confidence of a captain who believed the final frontier was worth the risk. Today, at 95, William Shatner's life has gone far beyond the captain's chair. He became a best-selling author, a recording artist, a television personality, and an Emmy-winning actor through Boston Legal. In 2021, he even traveled to space in real life, turning the fantasy that shaped his career into an emotional and unforgettable reality. Captain Kirk opened the door, but he spent decades reinventing himself in ways that were sometimes serious, sometimes eccentric, and never easy to ignore. For generations of fans, he remains the man who made space feel daring, romantic, and possible. Lieutenant Leslie was played by Eddie Paskey at the age of 27. Quiet, dependable, and often seen around the bridge and transporter room, Leslie helped make the Enterprise feel like a real working starship. He was not one of the main officers, but his familiar presence gave the ship a sense of life beyond the central crew. Eddie Paskey passed away in 2021 at the age of 81. It feels quietly sad knowing one of those familiar Enterprise faces is gone. After acting, he worked in the auto business and later met fans at Star Trek conventions. Looking back, Leslie's story feels small but meaningful. He did not need a famous line or dramatic moment to stay in fans' memories. He became part of the Enterprise itself, one of the steady faces that made the final frontier feel alive. Yeoman Rand was played by Grace Lee Whitney at the age of 36. Polished, loyal, and instantly memorable in her Starfleet uniform, Rand helped shape the early image of life aboard the Enterprise. She brought a softer human presence to the ship, standing close to command but never losing that quiet warmth that made her feel familiar. Grace Lee Whitney died in 2015 at the age of 85. Her passing felt like a real loss for fans who had watched her reclaim her place in the Star Trek family. After leaving the original series, she spoke openly about addiction, recovery, and rebuilding her life, later reconnecting with fans through films, conventions, and public appearances. Rand's story feels more meaningful than her screen time suggests. She was one of the first faces viewers associated with Starfleet, but Grace Lee Whitney's real-life honesty gave her legacy a deeper kind of respect. For many fans, seeing her return over the years felt like watching someone find her way back home among the stars. Dr. Leonard McCoy was played by DeForest Kelley at the age of 46. Sharp, emotional, and never afraid to challenge Kirk or Spock, McCoy gave the Enterprise its human conscience. He could be sarcastic, impatient, and old-fashioned, but underneath every complaint was a doctor who cared deeply about life, loyalty, and doing what felt morally right. DeForest Kelley passed away in 1999 at the age of 79. His death was a painful loss for fans who saw Bones as the warm heart of the original crew. Before Star Trek, Kelley spent years in westerns and dramas, often playing tougher roles before finding the doctor who would define his legacy. McCoy still feels essential because he brought emotion into the science fiction. His arguments with Spock were funny, but they also gave the show balance, logic on one side, feeling on the other. Through Kelley's tired eyes, dry voice, and fierce loyalty, Bones became the friend every captain would want beside him. Lieutenant Hikaru Sulu was played by George Takei at the age of 29. Calm, focused, and steady at the helm, Sulu helped make the Enterprise bridge feel like a true team. He was not always the loudest officer in the room, but his confidence gave the ship balance, discipline, and a sense that the future belonged to many different faces. Today, at 89, George Takei is known far beyond Star Trek. He became a powerful voice for LGBTQ+ rights, Japanese American history, and civil rights, often speaking about his childhood in U.S. internment camps during World War II. His activism gave his fame a purpose that reached far beyond television. Sulu's legacy has grown stronger with time. What began as a groundbreaking presence on a 1960s starship later became part of a larger story about representation, visibility, and dignity. George Takei did not just play a man of the future, he spent much of his life fighting for a better one. Pavel Chekhov was played by Walter Koenig at the age of 31. Young, eager, and proudly Russian, Chekhov brought a fresh energy to the Enterprise in the later seasons. His accent, confidence, and occasional comic timing gave the bridge a lighter rhythm, making him feel like the enthusiastic young officer still amazed by every strange mission. Today, at 90, Walter Koenig has remained closely connected to science fiction. He returned as Chekhov in the Star Trek films, reached another cult audience through Babylon 5, and continued working as a writer, performer, and convention guest. His career stayed creative, without being limited to only one universe. Chekhov gave the crew a youthful spark that fans still remember fondly. He was funny without being foolish, proud without being cold, and brave when the mission demanded it. In the family rhythm of the Enterprise, his voice became one of the sounds that made the bridge feel complete. Christine Chapel was played by Majel Barrett at the age of 34. Gentle, intelligent, and quietly devoted, Chapel brought warmth to the Enterprise sickbay and gave the series one of its softer emotional threads. Her feelings for Spock added vulnerability to a show often driven by duty, logic, and command decisions. Majel Barrett passed away in 2008 at the age of 76. Her death was a deep loss for fans, because her connection to Star Trek reached far beyond one character. She later played Lwaxana Troi, voiced the ship's computer across multiple series, and became one of the most familiar presences in the franchise's history. Chapel was only one part of what Majel Barrett gave to Star Trek. Over time, her voice became woven into the sound of the future itself. For many fans, hearing her as the computer felt like hearing the soul of the starship quietly guiding everyone forward. Lieutenant Kyle was played by John Winston at the age of 39. Focused, professional, and often seen at the transporter controls, Kyle helped make the Enterprise feel like a real working starship. He was one of those steady officers who gave the show routine, movement, and the feeling that every mission depended on more than just the captain and senior crew. John Winston passed away in 2008 at the age of 80. His death was a quiet loss for longtime fans who remembered him as part of the Enterprise's familiar background. He later returned as Kyle in the Star Trek films, giving viewers the pleasure of seeing a regular crewman continue beyond the original series. Kyle's role was never about big speeches or dramatic moments. His value was in the small details, standing at the transporter, handling orders, and making the ship feel busy and alive. For many fans, faces like his are part of why the Enterprise still feels real. Engineer was played by J.D. Jones at the age of 25. Practical, focused, and tied to the technical side of the Enterprise, his role helped suggest the unseen machinery behind every mission. Even in a brief appearance, the engineer added to the sense that the ship was full of working departments, not just a bridge crew facing the camera. Currently 84, J.D. Jones remains a deep-cut name for dedicated Star Trek fans. His acting career was limited compared with many others connected to the series, but that makes his appearance feel like a small, preserved piece of television history, one of the many faces that helped build the world around the main cast. The engineer represents one of the quiet strengths of the original series. Star Trek needed viewers to believe hundreds of people lived and worked aboard the Enterprise. A small role like this helped create that illusion, turning a studio set into a starship with engines, corridors, crews, and lives beyond the main story. Galloway was played by David L. Ross at the age of 28. Alert, loyal, and often placed near danger, he became one of the recurring Enterprise faces that made the crew feel larger than the main bridge officers. His presence gave the ship continuity, as if viewers were passing familiar people in the corridors from one mission to the next. Today, at 87, David L. Ross is still warmly remembered within the Star Trek fan community. His convention appearances helped give Galloway a second life, turning a supporting crewman into a name longtime viewers came to recognize. Few shows have ever made smaller crew roles feel this personal to their audience. Galloway shows how deeply fans connected with the Enterprise as a whole. A character did not need a famous catchphrase or a major storyline to feel like part of the family. He only needed to look like he belonged on that ship, standing watch, while the final frontier unfolded around him. Announcer was played by Bart LaRue at the age of 34. Heard more than seen, his deep and commanding voice helped make the world of the Enterprise feel larger than what appeared on screen. In a series full of alien warnings, mission briefings, and unseen authorities, a strong voice could make space feel mysterious, urgent, and official. Bart LaRue passed away in 1990 at the age of 58. His death was a loss to the sound of classic television, because voice work was such a strong part of what made him memorable. Across the 1960s and 1970s, he became known for narration, announcer roles, and unseen voices that added weight to many different shows. His contribution reminds us that Star Trek was not built only by the faces on the bridge. Sometimes, a voice from off-screen could make a planet feel dangerous, a message feel important, or a mission feel bigger than the studio walls around it. Maya 3 was played by Barbara Babcock at the age of 30. Mysterious, poised, and part of one of the show's more imaginative alien worlds, she brought a strange elegance to the original series. Her presence helped make the Enterprise feel like it was visiting societies with their own beauty, rules, and hidden tensions. Today, at 89, Barbara Babcock's career reaches far beyond this early Star Trek appearance. She later won an Emmy for Hill Street Blues and became familiar to another generation through Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, building a television legacy across drama, westerns, and character roles. Maya 3 is the kind of role fans enjoy rediscovering years later. A guest appearance might last only one episode, but in Star Trek, even a brief alien character could become part of both the actor's journey and the wider memory of the franchise. Montgomery Scotty Scott was played by James Doohan at the age of 46. Loyal, fiery, and always fighting to keep the engines alive, Scotty became the man fans trusted whenever the Enterprise was pushed past its limits. His panic, pride, and miracle-working engineering made the lower decks feel just as important as the captain's chair. James Doohan passed away in 2005 at the age of 85. His death hit fans hard, because Scotty felt like the soul of the ship itself. Before acting made him famous, Doohan served in World War II and was wounded on D-Day, a real-life history that gave his warmth and toughness even deeper meaning. Scotty became more than the engineer with the Scottish accent. He was the heartbeat below decks, the voice shouting about engines, impossible repairs, and giving the Enterprise all she's got. Through Doohan, the ship itself seemed alive. Dr. Theodore Haskins was played by John Lormer at the age of 60. Serious, thoughtful, and carrying the weight of old scientific regret, Haskins gave the episode a human connection to the past. In a series usually looking forward, his character reminded viewers that Discovery could also leave people haunted by what they had lost, misunderstood, or failed to change. John Lormer passed away in 1986 at the age of 79. His passing was felt by fans of classic television who knew his weathered face from many familiar worlds. He appeared in several Star Trek roles and brought the same worn, believable presence to westerns, mysteries, dramas, and science fiction. Haskins mattered because he brought age and memory into a futuristic story. The Enterprise often represented progress, but characters like him showed that even in the future, people still carried grief, mistakes, and unfinished questions. His scenes gave the science fiction a quieter, more human sadness. The Keeper was played by Meg Willey at the age of 49. Still, eerie, and almost impossible to read, she gave the Telosians a strange intelligence that felt unlike anything else on early television science fiction. With very little movement, her face carried control, curiosity, and a cold kind of power. Meg Willey passed away in 2002 at the age of 84. Her death marked the loss of one of Star Trek's most unusual early faces. Her performance became especially memorable because her face appeared on screen while the Keeper's voice was dubbed, creating one of the original pilot's most haunting alien figures. The Keeper worked because she did not need action to feel dangerous. One fixed stare could suggest a mind far older and more powerful than the humans standing before her. In a show filled with bold captains and starships, she proved that silence could be just as unsettling as any battle. Anthropoid Ape was played by Janos Prohaska at the age of 47. Hidden beneath creature makeup and costume work, he helped bring one of the show's unusual alien beings to life through movement rather than dialogue. His role belonged to the handmade side of classic science fiction, where imagination often had to do more than technology could. Janos Prohaska passed away in 1974 at the age of 54. His passing cut short a unique career built around physical performance and creature work. He gave life to strange beings across television long before modern visual effects, using body control, patience, and movement to make heavy costumes feel alive. His story reminds viewers how physical early sci-fi really was. Before CGI, alien worlds depended on performers willing to disappear inside masks and suits while still creating a presence. Prohaska's work helped turn limited production tools into creatures fans could remember decades later. CPO Garrison was played by Adam Rourke at the age of 29. Confident, disciplined, and fitted neatly into Starfleet's command structure, he added another human face to the Enterprise crew. His role was not large, but it helped fill out the world of officers, specialists, and working crew members who made the ship feel active beyond the main bridge. Adam Rourke passed away in 1996 at the age of 58. His death was a loss for fans who remembered the many character actors who helped shape 1960s television. Outside Star Trek, he became closely associated with biker films and counterculture cinema, giving his career a rougher edge far away from the polished future of Starfleet. Garrison reminds viewers how many different screen worlds passed through the original series. One actor could appear briefly aboard the Enterprise, then become part of a completely different corner of American pop culture. That mix of faces helped make Star Trek feel connected to the wider television world of its time. Metron was played by Vic Perrin at the age of 51. Calm, distant, and almost godlike in his judgment, the Metron gave Arena a deeper moral weight beyond the famous fight between Kirk and the Gorn. His presence turned a creature battle into a question about violence, mercy, and whether humanity was truly ready for the stars. Vic Perrin passed away in 1989, at the age of 73. His passing was felt by classic science fiction fans, who knew his voice as much as his face. As the control voice from The Outer Limits, he helped give another landmark series its mysterious, unforgettable opening sound. The Metron stayed memorable because he sounded beyond ordinary human emotion. He did not need anger or movement to feel powerful. With calm judgment and detached authority, Perrin helped turn one of Star Trek's most physical episodes into one of its clearest moral tests. Lieutenant DePaul was played by Sean Kenny at the age of 22. Young, focused, and often seen at his station, DePaul helped fill the Enterprise bridge with the feeling of a real crew at work. Like many supporting officers, he gave the ship continuity, making it seem as if viewers were stepping into an active command center already in motion. Today, at 82, Sean Kenny holds a special place in early Star Trek history. Beyond Lieutenant DePaul, he also played the injured Captain Pike in the original pilot footage, giving him an unusual double connection to the franchise. For dedicated fans, that makes his face part of both the show's beginning and its regular bridge life. DePaul may not have been at the center of the story, but his presence helped build the world around the main crew. The Enterprise felt alive because of faces like his. Officers watching panels, following orders, and making the final frontier seem busy, disciplined, and real. Gorn was played by Ted Cassidy at the age of 34. Heavy, brutal, and physically unforgettable, the Gorn turned Arena into one of the most famous creature episodes of the original series. Beneath the mask and costume, Cassidy's size and movement gave the alien a raw physical threat that made Kirk's fight feel slow, desperate, and strangely primal. Ted Cassidy passed away in 1979 at the age of 46. His death came far too early for fans who knew how much presence he brought to every role. Many viewers remember him as Lurch on The Addams Family, where his towering height, deep voice, and deadpan timing made him unforgettable in a completely different classic series. The Gorn became legendary partly because of how simple it was. No sleek modern effects, no digital monster, just a rocky alien landscape, a reptilian enemy, and Kirk forced to think his way through violence. Cassidy made the creature memorable without needing a single human expression. Captain Christopher Pike was played by Jeffrey Hunter at the age of 39. Serious, thoughtful, and visibly burdened by command, Pike gave the earliest version of Star Trek a more haunted and introspective captain. He was not as theatrical as Kirk would become. His strength came from weariness, discipline, and the feeling of a man questioning the cost of leadership. Jeffrey Hunter passed away in 1969 at the age of 42. His death was a heartbreaking loss for fans who saw how much more his career might have become. Before Star Trek, he had already made his mark in films like The Searchers and King of Kings, carrying the presence of a serious Hollywood leading man. Pike's legacy grew long after his first appearance. What began as an unaired pilot role later became one of the foundations of Star Trek history. Through Hunter's quiet intensity, fans saw a different path the series might have taken, more solemn, lonely, and deeply human. Vina was played by Susan Oliver at the age of 34. Fragile, mysterious, and caught between illusion and pain, she gave The Cage one of its most haunting emotional figures. Vina was not just a beautiful woman in a strange world. She was someone surviving loneliness through a reality carefully built around her suffering. Susan Oliver passed away in 1990 at the age of 58. Her passing felt especially sad because her life carried so much courage beyond acting. She became a pioneering pilot, flew solo across the Atlantic, and later directed television, proving that her real story was just as bold as the science fiction worlds she appeared in. Vina stayed with fans because her sadness felt real beneath the illusion. Behind the beauty was a woman trapped between what she had lost and what she needed in order to keep living. Her role gave early Star Trek a note of loneliness that still feels powerful decades later. Commodore Jose Mendez was played by Malachi Throne at the age of 37. Formal, controlled, and tied to the mystery around Captain Pike, Mendez gave the menagerie the feeling of a Starfleet inquiry where duty and loyalty were pulling in opposite directions. His calm authority helped make the story feel less like a flashback and more like a serious question of command, truth, and compassion. Malachi Throne passed away in 2013 at the age of 84. His passing was a real loss for fans of classic science fiction, especially those who knew how often his voice and presence shaped memorable genre roles. He also appeared in Batman, Mission Impossible, and later Star Trek: The Next Generation, while also voicing the Keeper in the original pilot footage. Mendez became part of one of Star Trek's cleverest pieces of storytelling. Through him, old pilot material was transformed into a courtroom-like mystery about friendship, sacrifice, and doing the right thing even when Starfleet rules said otherwise. Lieutenant Uhura was played by Nichelle Nichols at the age of 33. Calm, elegant, and essential at communications, Uhura helped place a black woman on the bridge of the future at a time when that image truly mattered. She was professional, graceful, and never treated the Enterprise as a place she did not belong. For many viewers, her presence alone made the future look wider. Nichelle Nichols passed away in 2022 at the age of 89. Her passing felt like a major loss far beyond Star Trek, because her work inspired not only fans, but real astronauts. She later worked with NASA to recruit women and minority astronauts, turning television visibility into real-world change. Uhura's legacy reaches far beyond any single episode. She helped show millions of viewers that the future could include people who had too often been left out of it. With one steady voice from the communication station, Nichelle Nichols made Star Trek's dream of a better tomorrow feel more possible. Mr. Spock was played by Leonard Nimoy at the age of 35. Logical, controlled, and quietly fascinating, Spock became the character who made being different feel powerful. Half human and half Vulcan, he carried the tension between reason and emotion in every raised eyebrow, careful answer, and silent pause. Leonard Nimoy passed away in 2015 at the age of 83. For many fans, losing him felt like saying goodbye to one of the most meaningful figures in science fiction. Away from the pointed ears, Nimoy was also a director, photographer, writer, poet, and musician, building a creative life far beyond Starfleet. Spock became a symbol for outsiders, thinkers, and anyone caught between two worlds. Nimoy gave him dignity, restraint, humor, and quiet pain, turning a science officer into something much larger. Decades later, "Live long and prosper" still feels less like a catchphrase and more like a farewell. Thank you for watching and subscribing to discover more classic stories, both past and present. See you in the next videos.